welcome to my channel. My name is Victoria. Some people still know me as Valentine. Call me what you want, it's okay as long as you keep it respectful. So I'm a little nervous right now because in this video I want to share some things that I haven't really discussed with anyone, I don't think. But I think it'll be really helpful. And also this is going to be kind of like me reflecting on my life. But anyway, as you can tell by the title of this video, it's going to be some things that I personally learned about myself since I've been engaged. And the reason I'm sharing these things is not just to share my personal business, because that's nobody's business, sorry, I'm eating. But mainly because there are a lot of these are things that I think are really important for a healthy relationship. And I don't know, if you're looking for a healthy relationship, I just think it's really important to know. So I'm going to go ahead and spill what I've learned so far. Thank you for watching in advance. Okay, so the first thing that I've learned, you know what, this is just off the top of my head. I am selfish as hell. And I didn't realize how selfish I was until actually, not even when I got into my relationship. It was actually a few weeks ago. My fiance and I, we don't argue a lot. Actually, we don't argue at all. We have disagreements, but we don't argue. That's one of the things that I love. But most of our disagreements, and I didn't realize until a few weeks ago, revolve around me being a selfish bitch. And in a relationship, you cannot be selfish. You cannot only think about yourself. Everything that you do.
What is going on around here?
You know what? Anyway,
Sorry. Everything that you do, everything that you think about, every idea that you have, you're no longer by yourself. You have to think of your partner. Always. It's like when you have kids, you can no longer just think about yourself. You have to think about your kids as well. And the same thing goes whenever you get into a relationship, especially one that you want to make last a lifetime. So as difficult as it is, you have to always keep your partner in mind when it comes to everything. Literally everything.
What? You heard me.
The second thing that I've learned since being engaged is that you have to be willing to be vulnerable. Not just with yourself, but with your partner as well. Because in order to create that emotional intimacy, physical intimacy is okay, but emotional intimacy drives everything. And in order to create that, you have to create a safe space for yourself and for your partner where both of you can feel comfortable sharing how you... I can never get my words right. But you have to create a space where both of you can feel comfortable expressing yourself. And it has to be about anything, not just the big things, the arguments, or the things that you feel should be talked about. No, you and your partner should be able to discuss anything and everything. If they say, hey, I don't like the way you've been treating me lately, you can't get upset. You can't get upset. Because then they're not going to want to discuss with you how they feel. And then that's going to cause tension. And eventually it's not going to work. Also, this has been a major thing for me because I don't like being vulnerable. I don't like being weak. I don't like people thinking that I'm weak or that I'm emotional. I am a strong black woman as I've been raised, and I think a lot of black women have been raised that way. And it's really in the real world, in the single world, it's okay. But when it comes to a committed relationship, you have to be willing to be vulnerable, to let your guard down and be sensitive and be an emotional crybaby with your partner, and just know that that's okay and that they're still going to be there for you and that they're going to love you. Okay, now the third thing that I've kind of always known, but I didn't really, I didn't really follow through with it. So everybody knows that communication is key. Communication is very important in any relationship, not just romantic relationships. We all know that. But if you want to make your relationship work, you have to be willing to communicate even when you don't fucking feel like it. And that was my biggest issue, because again, I am selfish. Well, let me not say that, because I'm learning to be the opposite. But in the beginning, I was a very selfish partner. And again, raised to be a strong, independent black woman and not show my emotions. Whenever I was upset, I did not like to talk about it. I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna keep this to myself. I'm upset right now, and when I'm ready to talk about it, I'll talk about it. But in a relationship, you cannot do that. One, it's selfish, like I said in the beginning. Two, it disrupts the space for you and your partner to be vulnerable together. And three, if there's no communication, there's no relationship. You have to be able to communicate with your partner about everything. And you may not always communicate the way that you feel correctly. That's my biggest concern, always. But that's okay, because if they're your partner, they'll be able to understand you. If they don't understand you, then you're probably not the one. But communicate. And not just effectively, but what's the word?
Damn your feeble brain!
In a timely manner, basically. You don't want to leave your partner just out of the blue for a long time, because they're your partner. They're supposed to know what's going on at all times. At all times, okay? And another thing. Now, people may not agree with me on this, but I've had some experience with this. Compromising is not real. It's not real. I don't care what anybody says, it's not real. What happens is you have to discuss with your partner. If there is a disagreement, think of it as two business entities coming together to make a decision, right? You don't compromise. What you do is you come together and you form an idea that works for the both of you. So when I think of compromise, I think one person gives up something to make the other person happy. You can't do that in a relationship, because that's going to cause resentment. What you have to do is come together and come up with something that both of you can agree on and that both of you are satisfied. That way there's no resentment, and it's like, I only did that because you wanted me to, you know? So you have to, again, communicate with your partner if there's something that you both disagree on, and work together to create something that you both will love. For instance, let me see. I should have so many examples. The wall color. And this is so stupid. The wall color in our house right now. My fiance was like so against white. Like so against white. And I'm telling him, like, we should paint the walls white. First of all, there were so many different colors. I'm like, and it's so dark in this house because there's very little natural lighting. I'm like, if we paint the walls whiter, it'll make the rooms brighter. He didn't believe me, and I was like, okay, that's fine. So we went to, you know, look at paint swatches or whatever. And of course, I wanted to go with the pure white, the bright white, the whitest white that there is. And he was just like, no. So what we did is we just looked at different shades of white. Different shades of white, and the one that we chose is not really a white. It's more like a brownish white. It's called barely brown. So that describes the name pretty well. But that's not a compromise, because we both love the color. I would have rather gone with pure white, and I'm sure he would have rather gone with some wild, crazy color. But again, we found a color that we both love. That way there's no resentment, and he's not like, oh, these walls are only white because you like white. You know? I hope that's a good example. Okay, so this one I think is most important, whether you're married or engaged, if you're single, if you're dating. I think this applies to pretty much everyone, and it's most beneficial when you're in a relationship. But not only really something that I've learned, it was something that I realized. You have to have a standard for yourself. Inside a relationship, outside a relationship. And what I mean by having a standard is you have to know what you're willing to accept, and you have to know what you're willing to not accept. And that could be in regards to anything, but you have to have some sort of standard. I don't like disrespectful men. My fiance is never disrespectful, not just to me, but to anyone. He doesn't disrespect anyone unless, of course, they deserve it. And even then, he probably wouldn't disrespect them. But that's important. You have to have standards. You have to know what you're willing to tolerate and what you're not. My fiance has standards, and he has told me those standards. Not always openly, but he'll show me those standards. But it's very important to know what you're willing to tolerate and what you're not. Because you don't want to get into a relationship with someone thinking that, you know, oh, they're everything that I want, and then all of a sudden they start doing some crazy shit and you're like, I don't know if I like this. So it's important to know what you like beforehand going into a relationship. And it's also important that your partner knows. It's very important that they know what your standards are. That way they can let you know whether or not they're willing to meet those standards. And if they're not, deuces. I can't really think of any other examples though. Let me see. So this is a good example. My fiance and I were talking the other day about it was about this video on how black women should date interracially because of the lack of available black men. But anyway, it mainly had to do with standards, and we were talking about why we chose each other. And he mentioned to me that we both have the same vision when it comes to our lifestyle. So that's important. I don't know how to explain that. It's a good example of having standards because we both know where we want to go in life, and it's the same fucking place. And I wouldn't want to be with someone who doesn't see themselves having a better future, or at least a similar future as I want, right? I'm trying to be a 6-figure boss. I want a condo by the water, working from home mostly, you know, doing barely nothing but living life. I don't want a man that wants to work a corporate job his whole life, retire at 65. You know, we just wouldn't be on the same page. And so that's kind of what I mean when I say you have to know your standards, and your partner has to know your standards, and you have to know what you're willing and not willing to tolerate. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, that's all I'm willing to share about myself today. I'm feeling really vulnerable right now. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, please. And please make sure that you subscribe, because my goal at the end of this month is to reach 1,500 subscribers. So if you could, go ahead and click the subscribe button below. And make sure you click the notification bell as well so that you know whenever I post new videos. Anyway, thank you for watching.